Lo, how the mighty have fallen. Harry here to talk about Rudy Giuliani and the defamation trial. And it really is a sort of how low can you go situation. Okay, first point, just to set things up. Recall that this defamation case brought by Ruby Freeman and Shaye Moss for Giuliani's defaming them with false allegations of improprieties as election workers already has been comes into a jury trial with his liability, basic liability for defamation, that is to say, that it was false and that he knew or was reckless about its falsity, already established. And why was it established? Because Giuliani again and again and again refused court orders to provide information about his finances. That is something that plaintiffs in a defamation case have a right to, in part because they would be looking for punitive damages, and it matters what the net worth of a defendant is in determining what amount is right to punish him. Okay, so he comes in, basically, he's always blustering in the public sphere. Recall the, debacle of the Four Seasons landscaping parking lot press conference. But even this week, he blusters in public that, in fact, the election was rigged. Everyone will know the real truth and it will be definitive when he testifies. He, said it again just yesterday. It really, really harms his legal position because it's something that can be brought up. It's an admission that he makes that he's still defaming them. And if he's been already found guilty of doing it and he's incorrigible in this sense, it makes the jury want to give him more. So, but he's making all these public statements. You have the maxim that every journalist is saying that don't get between Rudy Giuliani and a microphone. But unlike Trump, who can play the same kind of strategy in public as well as at court because he's a candidate for office that people want to listen to, Giuliani's got nothing. I can't overemphasize the degree to which he is just a complete deadbeat. He's a deadbeat in terms of the apparent money he's got to pay a judgment, but he's also just a legal deadbeat. When push comes to shove, he's got nothing to say. So that brings us to the first dramatic headline of the day after this bluster all week about how he's going to testify and then we'll know the real truth. He doesn't testify. In fact, he offers no defense case whatsoever. They just sit down. Was it always a total bullshit? And he knew he couldn't testify, or did his lawyer strong arm him over the last couple days? Kind of doesn't matter. He certainly knew when he's out there making these public statements that he might well not testify, but in any event, he doesn't. So he writes all these checks to the American people that he can't cash, and it's much worse in the courtroom. So he doesn't testify, and he's literally offers nothing. When his lawyer, it's like a Hitchcock paranoid fantasy, a lawyer who has to give a closing argument and he's got nothing to you. Basically, his argument was he's not such a bad guy, even though he's been a jerk this week by saying more things. He says that. He says he thinks the experts were overly rehearsed. He says that. And he says we need to compensate these poor plaintiffs who had very sympathetic testimony, but don't put it all on Rudy Giuliani. A lot of the real pernicious effects and damaging effects came from other people and not Rudy. That is the guy's closing argument. Might as well just throw himself on the mercy of the jury. So headline number one, Giuliani doesn't testify at all. And then number two, at closing argument, literally the only thing he can say on the statements is based on the plaintiff's exhibits, which show the comments that Giuliani made. And he's trying to say, no, they're not that bad. They're not, like some of the terrible racist tweets that they got. And you shouldn't hold Giuliani accountable for what third parties have said. I mean, it is beyond pitiful. And then so that's, point number two. He's just completely exposed, gives nothing to the jury, who's heard all this nasty stuff that he said, who's seen this very sympathetic testimony from both Freeman and Moss, who's heard from an expert that it'll be $40 million to compensate them. And he gives them, in legal parlance, jack shit. So, he really, this is legal payday, comes around and he's got nothing. And that's the third point I just want to emphasize, starting with the Fulton County trial, where we already know he's A, such a lousy witness because he's lied so much, and B, so culpable that Fani Willis has said, we're not going to offer him a deal. He's got nothing to give to us. So they're going to, throw the book at him, a long sentence in a Georgia state prison, which is by all accounts, no picnic. And he's got nothing. So he's like a completely played out boxer who can just stay in the middle of the ring with his hands down and get the tar kicked out of him. And that's who Rudy Giuliani is today. And, if he has a legal strategy, both here and in Fulton County, I think it's to just try to stay like the biggest deadbeat, child support dad, a little bit ahead of the law. He's going to lose this big time. He has a lousy lawyer because he can't pay his lawyers, and his lawyers, people very close to him, have sued him. So some lousy lawyer takes it through appeal. And I think basically he just, it goes through appeal, and then he tries to dare people. They'll have to bring it. He won't pay, and there'll be another motion to attach his assets and judgment. And then think about the parallel process in the criminal trial. It's beyond pitiful. It's sub-zero. And, this is so maudlin, but is he maybe thinking / hoping that his life expectancy is less than the time when he'll really, have to face a reckoning, and the jail door will close behind him and they'll seize all his assets? That makes as much sense of what he's doing as anything else. He's just a total fraud, deadbeat, played out bullshit artist. The former totally feared U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, mayor of New York, America's mayor on 9/11. It's like if there were a debtor's prison, which we don't have in this country anymore, that's where he'd wind up, about as low as you can go. So anticipate a big verdict, but anticipate his trying to bob and weave as long as he can. And I don't see another legal strategy. I don't see much of what he'll have on appeal because he didn't offer anything. And, I think he just stays in the middle of the ring and lets himself get pummeled. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.